In this podcast episode, Dr. Kathryn Paige Harden, a psychologist and geneticist at the University of Texas Austin, discusses the complex interplay between genetics and environment in shaping human behaviors related to risk-taking, addiction, morality, and social norms. The conversation spans topics including adolescence, gender differences, neurodevelopment, punishment and reward, the genetics of vice, and the societal implications of understanding the biological roots of behavior. Dr. Harden's insights provide a scientific yet compassionate perspective on how nature and nurture combine to influence our choices and moral judgments. Dr. Harden explains why adolescence is a pivotal period to study the interaction between genes and environment. Clinically, adolescence marks the onset of many mental health conditions and addictive behaviors. Developmentally, this life stage is when individual differences begin to canalize and become solidified. Her research focuses on ages roughly 10 to 25, a window capturing puberty through early adulthood. The timing and pace of puberty, which show considerable individual variability, have important consequences not only for psychological functioning, but also for long-term health and lifespan. DNA methylation studies have revealed epigenetic clocks tied to pubertal development, suggesting that faster pubertal progression may correlate with accelerated biological aging. Environmental factors such as the presence or absence of a biological father appear to influence pubertal timing, particularly in girls, although genetics play a strong role as well. Girls raised without a biological father tend to enter puberty earlier, a phenomenon that may be related to evolutionary adaptations signaling resource instability. However, genetic inheritance also shapes this timing, making it difficult to disentangle pure environmental effects from hereditary ones. Dr. Harden emphasizes the importance of explaining these complexities with sensitivity to avoid simplistic or stigmatizing interpretations. The podcast explores the overlap between genetic predispositions that underlie behaviors traditionally conceptualized as sins, such as lust, wrath, and greed. Harden discusses how genes influencing impulsivity, addiction, sexual behavior, and aggression highly overlap, suggesting a shared neurodevelopmental basis. These genetic influences are broadly distributed across the genome and are most active during prenatal cortical development, particularly affecting the brain's balance of excitation and inhibition. This neurodevelopmental foundation links traits that manifest as risk-taking and antisocial behaviors, and disorders like substance use disorder and conduct disorder can be seen as extensions of this biological architecture. Dr. Harden contemplates whether addictive or impulsive behaviors might represent attempts to rebalance disrupted brain inhibitory-excitatory dynamics. While some individuals describe substance use as self-medication to restore normalcy, the heterogeneity of addiction makes this hypothesis difficult to generalize. Personality traits such as sensation-seeking, disinhibition, and callousness contribute variably to risk behaviors, indicating diverse pathways and motivations behind seemingly similar outward behaviors. The relationship between trauma and genetic predisposition is described as a complex tapestry, with neither being purely primary or secondary. Parents who carry genetic risk factors for impulsive or addictive behaviors frequently struggle themselves, which affects the developmental environment they provide for their children. This interaction between inherited biology and early life adversity shapes outcomes, but also underscores the critical need for nurturing and supportive environments to potentially buffer genetic vulnerabilities. Discussing the desire or reluctance to know one's genetic risk, Harden notes that while genetic knowledge has potential utility for preventive strategies, such as parenting approaches tailored to a child's temperament, current polygenic risk scores are imprecise at predicting individual outcomes. She highlights the psychological complexities inherent in knowing one's genetic profile, where low-risk information may inadvertently license harmful behaviors, while high-risk information may cause anxiety or fatalistic attitudes. The integration of genetic data must therefore be contextualized within broader life experiences and personal histories. Identical twins, although sharing the same DNA, display substantial differences driven by developmental noise, random variation, and path-dependent experiences shaping personality and behavior independent of genetics and family environment. This randomness of development contributes to individual identity formation and underscores the limits of deterministic views of genetics. Dr. Harden critiques cultural narratives that view individuals as born inherently bad or broken, a concept rooted in religious ideas like original sin. She emphasizes that behaviors emerge from complex neurodevelopmental processes influenced by genetics and environment, not from inherent depravity. Cases such as violent offenders with identified brain tumors or rare genetic mutations complicate moral judgments, but also highlight the importance of considering biology without surrendering responsibility. Most genetic effects related to disinhibition, addiction, and impulsivity appear shared across males and females, with a difference mainly in average levels rather than underlying disposition. Girls generally develop inhibitory control earlier than boys, which likely contributes to sex differences in adolescent risk-taking. Aggression manifests differently. Physical aggression is more common in boys, while relational aggression, e.g. social exclusion or reputation damage, predominates in girls. These behavioral patterns are deeply evolutionarily ingrained and have distinct developmental timelines. The discussion addresses the neuroscience and psychology of punishment and reward in human societies. Neuroscientific evidence shows that witnessing punishment of wrongdoers triggers dopamine release, providing a form of reward or satisfaction. This cruelty currency reflects a primal human desire to see social norms enforced and justice maintained. However, empirical findings indicate that punishment often fails to reduce undesirable behavior as effectively as rewarding positive behavior does. Punishment's utility lies primarily in boundary setting and group protection, not in inflicting suffering. Humans wrestle with balancing empathy and accountability, the rescue blame trap. Recognizing how genes, environment, and bad luck contribute to harmful behaviors does not negate individual responsibility, but challenges simplistic binaries of good versus evil. Dr. Harden advocates for accountability systems focused on safety, repair, and future harm reduction, rather than retribution. She critiques societal tendencies toward punitive justice and highlights the corrosive pleasure some take in others' suffering. The fragmented, large-scale nature of modern societies and social media complicate traditional mechanisms of norm enforcement. Online interactions lack the stability of small communities, often escalating calls for punishment without clear processes for repair or forgiveness. These dynamics heighten social polarization and hinder nuanced understanding of individual behavior within context. The episode explores how knowledge of family history and genetic background already inform many people's understanding of risk and behavior in everyday life. Dr. Harden points out the recombination of genes across generations means no child is a mere copy of their parents, thus enabling cycle breakers who defy familial patterns of maladaptive behaviors. The conversation touches on the powerful influence of narratives around heredity, identity, and personal agency. Dr. Harden's forthcoming book and research emphasize the potential to rethink blame and forgiveness through the lens of genetics and neurodevelopment. She envisions a future where recognizing the biological underpinnings of behavior leads to more effective and humane policies and social attitudes that balance justice, mercy, and rehabilitation. Underlying much of the discussion is an acknowledgement that humans are fundamentally social cooperators who value fairness and reciprocity. Our complex emotions related to envy, justice, and punishment have evolutionary roots essential for group cohesion. Understanding these drives can help guide how societies reward and sanction behavior, balancing personal agency with compassion for complexity. The dialogue describes clear sex differences in how conflict and aggression are expressed and processed. Girls engage more frequently in relational aggression, even from early childhood, while boys tend to show more overt physical aggression. Physiological responses to conflict also differ between genders, such as prolonged cortisol elevation in women after arguments. These distinctions inform how social development and moral behavior evolve differently among sexes. The conversation briefly shifts to social psychology of status and dominance, including how hierarchical group structures arise through competitive behaviors, such as verbal sparring and displays of competence. These dynamics resonate with evolutionary patterns seen in animals and offer insight into how competitive drive, aggression, and cooperation shape human groups in domains like science and business. Dr. Harden underscores the importance of embracing complexity and rejecting reductionist notions of inherent good or evil. She stresses that while genetics and biology shape possibilities, humans possess remarkable capacity for growth, change, and benevolence. The dialogue encourages more nuanced public understanding and scientific engagement with the biology of morality, addiction, punishment, and forgiveness.